Let's break the mold, start believing, and stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. Welcome to Wild on 7, presented by Pilot Games. We're here until it's here.
And welcome back. This is Wild on 7th, your favorite Wild podcast, presented by Pilot Games. And this is why we're here, Kinger, because it can be at times hard to be the Minnesota sports fan, especially when you've got your club that's made it to the playoffs and a big emotional double OT win. You're fully invested. It was a 9 o'clock start. You stay up till 1 o'clock to see Ryan Hartman score the OT winner. Full of excitement going into game two. Coach plays coy. You have no clue what the lineup is. You're staying up till 9:50 again. You've had your Red Bull, whatever it is, post dinner, ready to go. Then you see the lineup comes in, and what, the game one hero's out injured? How is that possible? Then you look at the goaltender who stood on his head. He's also not in the lineup. Wild banged up. They don't get the start they want, and things kind of unravel from there. Wild had a chance in the game, but you could see it, Kinger. It could be hard for the fan to look through all of that and stick with it. But I see that you, as the great host that you are to this podcast and the premise of it, you've put on your Carhartt hat because you recognize it's time to put on the work clothes, get to work. It's the playoffs, and there are momentum swings. Things change. This is a volatile fan base, but it's 1-1. How are you feeling?
It's a grind, man. You know, most people in this state, I think they have a weekly skate where they skate 1 day a week. And that next morning, you're moving a little slow. So if you're a Tuesday night hockey guy, Wednesday mornings are a little foggy. This playoff thing with these late starts, holy buckets, man. It's a grind. And we are a fragile fan base, I have to say it. Just if they say you're not supposed to get too high or too low, the Minnesota fan base is like a roller coaster. It's crazy.
They're certainly not listening to that advice because it is all in or all out. I think the way to look at it, you know, the it's a long haul, and the Wild blew a tire last night, but there's plenty of time to repair it. The destination is still in sight. But um, what what was your take on and the number one hot button topic coming out of game two? And Dean wouldn't tip his cap as to who was playing in goal. He had rotated all year. Gustafsson had 51, 52 saves, whatever it was in game one. He seemed like the obvious choice in game two, but Everson, with the rotation, stuck to it, man of his word, said we're using both goaltenders, and he sends Marc-Andre Fleury out there. What did you feel when you saw that?
Well, I think they are playing the long game. They want to use two goalies. They're not trying to win 4 games, they're trying to win 16. But what happens if you combine the fragile fan base with the style of goaltending that the Flower plays? It's I think it's just hard for Minnesotans because it's more chaotic. A question I had for you is, in some capacity, Flower, he thrives in chaos. You know, he's the guy that can go post to post, make a save you never saw coming, like a Secret Service agent. And but then there's a side of me that wonders if that style creates chaos. Because last night looked like, Mogadishu on the ice at times. It was rough.
Well, I think it's an interesting question because in his post game presser, Everson talked on it. He said, "Game one, I don't think we gave up an odd man rush," and then boom, right away. And Fleury, you have to feel bad for the dude. Some regards, game one, he's put out there almost as like a sacrificial lamb. Like Dallas didn't like their start. They lost it in double OT. They can't go down 2-0 at home. Uh, the Wild were terrific in defense. I think Dallas had 116 shot attempts in game one. They had 2 rebound chances. Like they just didn't get to the scoring areas at all. And I think their coach challenged them. So there was going to be more pressure in front of the Wild goaltender, whoever it was. It was going to be a tougher night. Um, Despite the fact the shots weren't there, I think the quality was going to be there. But the Wild out in front of them were just too loose. First shot again, it's like, hey, tough spot for a goaltender to be in. First shot, let's make a play right inside our own blue line on the power play, a quick little chip, and then Rupe Hintz, breakaway, boom, snipe down 1-0. Like that's a tough start, and then it didn't stop from there. So they didn't play good in front of them, and it it really is a good question, and I don't know that I have the answer. But if you go back in the recent history and how the Wild have played when Fleury was in net. All right, so let's go all the way back to Vegas, where the Vegas game at home, where I think he gets the Bronx cheers
Yep.
for making like a routine save from the red line. He loses that game 5-1. It upsets him. He hits the reset button, and then they play Colorado. His next game is against Colorado. Loses that one 3-1, tighter game, but it looked a little better. He had some saves, something he could build off of, and then I think he ripped off 7 in a row, and he got a lot better. But then after that, the team, I think, started to play a little bit loose in front of them again. So go to the Pittsburgh game, end of the year, while they're in Pittsburgh, and they just gave those guys too many chances. And I think that was the case more often than not. Doesn't the team look different when Gus is playing versus the team is different when Fleury's playing? It's hard to dissect and figure out what it is, but they're a little too loose. And maybe that's they trust Fleury too, a little too much. They're counting on him to be able to make these saves, or they want to get offense, or whatever it is. But way too many odd man rushes last game, and Fleury's style. You're right. Like, he's aggressive. He goes for the poke check and the 2-pad stack. He doesn't just sit there and play the percentages. So to the Wild fan too, I think it just looks more dangerous and erratic to them, and they're just it's easy for them to lose their mind. But Everson touched on it too, and I'm not saying Fleury couldn't have had some of those in the game too, but it wasn't all on him, and that's truthful.
Well, I wonder if it's like a quarterback. You don't think of a goalie that way, but how is he in the huddle? You know, where do those little saves go? Do they go to the corner of the rink, or are they right in front of them? I just wonder if the energy is different. And I'm more of the fan perspective, Carts, and the thing that I notice, we are a fragile fan base. We are a disaster as fans, Minnesotans, because we haven't seen anything good happen, a lot of us, in our entire lives. And so with Gus, Gus is like a dog with his tail in the fireplace. It's on fire and he doesn't even know it. He's a weighted blanket. He makes everybody feel calm. And Flower, he's burning calories in net. And his Apple Watch is going off because he's all over the place. And I think that it's more manic for the fan base, and it just stresses them out because they're already stressed out.
Yeah, for sure. But again, just think about the start of that game, though. Did Fleury have a chance? I'm not even really sure. Like, if he makes that save on Hintz on the breakaway shorthanded right off the bat, then maybe it's an entirely different game. But first shot, so Dallas is going to be good. First shot against his breakaway, boom, score. As a goaltender, just think about what mentally that would do to you. You automatically would have to say, okay, as much as I'm a pro, as much experience as I have, I can't just hit the reset button and act like that didn't happen. You'd have to apply pressure to yourself and say, okay, now I have to be perfect from here on out. Then they go get a double minor, or the power play, whatever it is. Sagan scores. Actually, I don't think that one was the double minor, but Sagan gets one on the power play right on the doorstep, and all of a sudden 2-0 lead. Again, he's a pro. I think he knows, all right, now it's time to make the next save. This game's not over yet. And the Wild do find a way to climb back, get it 2-1, and then boom, boom. Next thing you know, it's 4-1. Look at those goals again. It's not easy. The one where I think you can look at it and say maybe should have had was the Jamie Benn goal on the power play. It's a rush from the side, and he froze them. And I think when you look at goaltender styles, Fleury's like an athletic guy. This is actually a perfect example, I think, of the difference between the two goaltenders. He's a shot reader, so he's trying to read your body language, your stick, everything else, where you're going with that one. And sometimes you can fool him. And it just so happened to be Jamie Benn, who's terrific at deception. Like, he hid the shot and stymied Fleury a little bit there. If that was Gus, it maybe looks like more of a routine save, but their style is different in that regard. And, But then the Hintz one with the poke check, again, maybe a little aggressive, but maybe at that time a goaltender's reeling, like how are you feeling about yourself? And the Dodonov tip was unbelievable from Heiskanen. So I really don't know that you can blame a lot of them on Fleury, and the pressure was there. And I really don't think it matters if you have 3 cups and all these playoff games experience. Like, it's still hard not to be human and say, this is a tough spot to come into. My partner just fired a bullet. I've got to fill those shoes against a team that's likely going to be better. I mean, I'm not making excuses for him. It was a tough decision. I think a lot of the narrative coming out of it is going to be, what were the coaches thinking? What was management thinking? Why they put this guy in? And Dean has stuck to his team first mentality all year long, and the rotation is what they went with, and that was the choice that they made. So I'll be curious to see how everybody responds coming back to St. Paul, because now there's an opportunity for the guys to take care of their coach in the spot.
Yeah, and I think it's more. I really think it's a fan thing. Um, we we don't know how to be winners, and so it's. I even found myself. So game one, right? Spurgeon's face. He looks like Mr. Potato Head by the end of the first game. He just got so much damage. And after game one, I'm thinking, this is great. Look, we are strapped in. We're ready for playoffs. After game two, I see him leaving the ice with the same markings, and I'm thinking, oh no, Dallas is getting to us. Look, they're beating us up. And you just take these huge swings. And I think the key is for the team not to do that. And I do believe they have a different sort of belief in the room where they won one on the road. They got some guys getting healthy here, I think, that are coming back into the lineup. And we're going to get last change. And I think they got quiet feet a lot more than the fan base does.
Yeah, the players.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure they do. There's a little bit more confidence, and I think that they understand that you go on the road to start the playoffs to get a split, and you win the first one, then it's okay to get a little bit greedy and try to take 2 on the road, but you're totally happy with a split. You're rattled coming home 0-2, but you got to go to work. They're in a good spot. It's just amazing to the momentum swings that can occur in playoff hockey. Like, it looked like the Wild had this series like almost wrapped up. Again, I had somebody tell me like the Matt Dumba hit on Pavelski was like the statement series changing hit. And I was like, well, settle down a little bit. Like, and that was game one. There will be a response to that. Like, the momentum switching series changing plays happen games 3, 4, 5-ish. So there's still a lot of hockey to be played, but yeah, the ups and downs and everything else that the guys are going to deal with just fine. I think they're happy going back to St. Paul 1-1.
The other thing I noticed, Carts, I never saw us playing our game last night at all, really. So if you think of the first period in game one, D-to-D passes, good zone, leaving the zone well, gaining the zone well, lots of D-to-D, both in the offensive and defensive zone, puck possession, tape-to-tape passing. I don't even know if I saw us pass D-to-D the whole night last night. We seemed to be under siege the whole night. There was never a sense that we were driving the car. We were just reacting. Did you feel the same?
Totally. Dallas made changes, in my opinion, and they didn't feel in game one they got out of their own zone well enough. So their D weren't dusting the puck off; they were moving it, and they changed things. They were blowing guys out of the zone, pushing wild D. They weren't able to extend zone time, get cycle shifts. The forecheck wasn't able to get going and be as effective because the D weren't skating with the puck. That Marcus and Sundquist and these bodies couldn't get in there, bang, turn pucks over because Dallas was just getting rid of the puck too quick. And then I think in the neutral zone where the Wild really had fits too. And what Dallas, I think, switched is they weren't pulling the puck back deep in the neutral zone anymore. They were pressuring forward. And then with the Wild D and forwards under pressure, there's chip outs to the neutral zone. And then Dallas wasn't taking their time going D to D, swinging around. It was quick right up. And there were a number of instances where Dallas players weren't even out of the zone, and the pass to that actual player was already coming. Like they were almost offside, sending themselves back into the zone. And the Wild just couldn't gap up and get going. And because of that, it was like waves of pressure. But it seemed that DeBoer and the Stars, for sure, we're talking, all right, hey, we're going north tonight, 5-man units. I don't care. It doesn't matter if you see a play cross ice or you want to, do this deep regroup. No, the answer is no. It's getting up the ice north in a hurry, and we're just playing a fast-paced game. They did that. The feet were moving for Dallas. The Wild didn't have a response. But I do think some of their inability to combat that is lineup based. So you have Steele on that top line. You have Boldy moving to the middle. It's hard to just flip a switch and go to a different situation and be totally cool in it. Different routes, different responsibilities, more to think about when you're in the middle. So Boldy has an entirely different game in game 2 than game 1. Missing those guys was critical, changed absolutely everything, and it's a next man up mentality. But you put all that stuff together, a hungry team in Dallas. They made some quality adjustments. The Wild were without some important pieces, and Dallas just had the better of the game. But you know what else is amazing? So I'm looking at the stats too to pivot here a little bit. And if I told you at the start of the night that there would be 92 penalty minutes in this game, who do you think would have won that game?
The Wild.
Yeah, I think so too. And it was the post-game comments from Pete DeBoer. It was interesting. Go back and watch his availability. He's very complimentary of his club and their response and what they were able to do. He's asked about the decision to go with Fleury and if that's hard for a team to not know who the goaltender that they're going to face is going to be until 30 minutes before the game. And he said, no, we're totally prepared for both goaltenders. They rotated all year. They've both been good. Pete DeBoer had Fleury in the past. He said, we're comfortable going against both guys. It really doesn't matter. And I'd expect to see Fleury again some point again in this series. It's likely not over for him. And then the question came with the rough stuff and retaliation and not getting dragged into the fight, so to speak. And Pete DeBoer just quite simply said, hey, Minnesota takes a lot of penalties. They're 6th in the NHL. We knew they were coming with that, and we were prepared. And he gets up and walks off. He's playing. There are games being played here with the media, through the coaches, through Pete DeBoer. Game 1, the Pavelski hit. Pete DeBoer comes in after. He's asked about it first thing. He says, you know what? We have the best referees in the NHL. And if they go and review that and they say that it's not a 5-minute major, then I'm not going to argue it because they're the best referees in the world. He's playing games to get the calls, and he's trying to get under the skin of the Wild. And I think it worked. I think Dallas is feeling pretty good that, all these 10-minute misconducts, they're trying to get Dallas engaged, drag him into the fight. Dallas is turning the cheek. Take a look at Jamie Benn. Tell me what you think of Jamie Benn's game last night. What did you see from him?
Well, I'm starting to hate him. I was even looking at that little blank spot in his mustache where he probably has a scar, and I was thinking, I don't like that. I don't like that he has that line in his beard. Yeah, I don't. I think he. I know this isn't fair because he is a tough guy, but when you watch a team play like that and they don't go all the way to fighting, or like they don't completely cross the line, they stay right on the edge, man, it makes you hate them more. If they won't go all the way, and because I think on the Wild you have a lot of guys that will go all the way, whether it's Dewar,
Right.
Duhaime, Reeves, Foligno, Dumba. Most of these guys they'll go all the way and get in the pit with you. I see on Dallas a lot of guys looking in the storefront window and irritating you, but they won't cross that line, and that makes me hate them more.
Yeah, and that's Jamie Benn. He's usually the guy, and I was curious because he's usually, and we've seen it in the past from him, is he'll want to be a tone setter. And I still think as the captain, he is a tone setter. But you have to read between the lines to see the tone that he's trying to set right now. And he at times has come out and dropped the gloves at center ice with the other team's captain and gone toe to toe to be like, hey, we're here, like this is it. It's not going to be easy to get his guys going, to rally him. he's turning a cheek right now, and that's not something that's common to him. And he is walking that line of being physical in your face, but not stepping over, not fully engaging. And I think that has the Wild upset a little bit, but at the same time, I think they need to recognize like what's going on in that regard. Dallas wants to get their power play out there. The power play has been terrific throughout the series. So why wouldn't they? So they're trying to go at the Wild knowing that, hey, they get upset if we're not going to go all in, drop the mitts, and fight because we know the Wild will fight. Yeah, absolutely. They have Foligno, they have Reeves. When healthy, they have Hartman, Middleton, Duhaime. I'm probably missing some guys, but they'll drop the gloves. Absolutely. When asked, it's going to happen. And Jamie Benn's usually a guy that obliges. He's not right now. So I think you have to read between the lines and see the messages. He's a tone setter. He's setting the tone. And the tone is we're going to work, we're going to be physical, we're going to battle in that front, and we might face wash after a whistle. But at the same time, we're turning the cheek. Nobody's dropping the gloves. Nobody's going to give them the satisfaction of winning a fight. And it has the Wild, at least it looked like it did down the stretch yesterday, the Wild frustrated.
Yeah, I agree. And he even kind of, I wouldn't call it a dive because it was a penalty, but when he got hit by that stick, his legs immediately disappeared from underneath him. And they know what they're doing. I guess you'd say they're baiting us, right? They're baiting us into it. And they really want special teams to go, right?
Yeah, I think so. And speaking of baiting, I think that you're baiting me into a segue into a word from our sponsors.
It's playoff time, and that means it's playoff beard time. And nobody has your beard sorted better than the folks at Duke Cannon. Whether you want beard balm, beard oil, beard wash, they have it all. Check out dukecannon.com. Use promo code BEARD10 for 10% off. Don't leave this stuff to people who don't know what they're doing. Trust the experts at Duke Cannon. Get that playoff beard rocking.
Well, everybody, it's back. The Aquarius Home Services and Connecticut Customer Appreciation Open House event is happening Friday, May 5th through Sunday, May 7th. Connecticut water treatment systems will be up to 30% off. Salt and water filters are 20% off. New heating and cooling systems up to 25% off. Food and fun for all. And be sure you bring in your water sample for a free water analysis. It's the Aquarius Connecticut Open House event, May 5th through the 7th in Little Canada at 694 and 35E. Details at aquariushomeservices.com.
Again, thanks to our sponsors. But hey, King, another thing we have to talk about, speaking of, guys that are trying to antagonize, upset, Ryan Suter has quickly become public enemy number one, it seems like, to Wild fans. As much disdain as you may be feeling or that could be growing for Jamie Benn, what are the sentiments on the way that Ryan Suter has played this series?
Yeah, he's playing it very similar to Ben. You can't really get to him. He's not going to fully engage. He's going to take some liberties where he can. It's a poker game, But you could see at the end of that game, there were bodies just getting thrown at 20, over and over again, trying to get him. Foligno definitely has a personal feud with those two. There's plenty of 17 on 20, but I don't think he's going to keep playing exactly how he plays. I think you could say Dumba in some ways has played these first two games the best, in the sense, if you look, he's not engaging, he's not running around. He played great last night trying to get us back into it. He gave the big hit game one, but he isn't in this he's not running around, and he seems to be focused. And I think Suter and Ben are on that program. They just said, hey, we're going to drive them crazy. We're going to be Dennis Rodman, and they're going to take the fouls, and if their guys are in the box, we're going to score. Suter seems to be on that same program.
I agree. I think the thing with Suter is it feels like there's a little more to it, right? Like it's part let's win a series. It's part there's enjoyment from him in this, and I think Marcus Foligno was mic'd up in game one, and it'd be great to get some audio on the conversations between those two guys out there, because they had a couple of a couple conversations for sure, but that's a battle that is going to be. I'm going to make sure that I keep a real close eye on whenever things happen, post whistle, whatever. Marcus tries to get Suter lined up too, and he has. He's been trying to get him clean body check between the whistles, but Suter is hard to hit. I mean, he knows when people are coming. He knows when he's in a vulnerable spot, and sometimes he'll just leave the puck. And if you finish your hit there, it might be an interference or he'll slip out of it. So he's cagey. And Wild fans with the cross checks, he was doing that in a Wild sweater for years too. So he's doing a lot of the same things, but he's just not letting anybody get the satisfaction of getting even. I think he's playing the villain card pretty darn well right now. And Marcus Foligno, the image last night to me was Marcus Foligno's helmet off, like holding it, trying to plead to the referee that Ryan Suter, yanked it off, auto penalty. That actually would have been a big turning point because they would have put him down 5-on-3. It didn't happen, but yeah, at some point I think Marcus will get his chance to get even, but it hasn't materialized in the first two games.
How about when Marcus walked down the tunnel when he gets his game misconducts and he's doing the two?
Bring it.
Yeah, no, there's plenty of hate here.
Speaking of that, right after that, so post game, I'm walking down to exit the arena, walk past the locker room, and there was pieces of stick everywhere. And whether it was, I don't know, I think one of them for sure was Marcus's, but there were dudes that were upset. The stick budget took a beating last night for sure. The garbage can completely full. It looked like, what did it look like? Phi Ed class with those plastic sticks with the curves halfway bent. Everything's busted just out of a garbage can. That's entirely what it was. Just stick after stick hanging out of this garbage can, busted right there. But yeah, I think you're right though on Matt Dumba. He's been playing good hockey.
Oh man, he was great last night too.
And game one, it was calculated, it was smart. Wild lost momentum at times. They were able to quickly grab it and take it back. And that's something that they could not do in game two. Dallas kind of took it and ran with it. But the one time that they almost did was when they had the two goals back to back. They're down 4-1. Seems like they're down and out, and they get a quick one, and then another one from Gaudreau. Nice little move down low there. And it looks like they're back in it. How about post-game Evison says, and this is a huge miss if this is true, that Boldy's breakaway about a minute after that, where they blew it offsides, wasn't offsides. So I think Johansson was in the zone, but he was able to get out of the zone. If that's Boldy on a breakaway, 4-3 game after the Wild score two quick ones, and he's got a chance to tie it up, and it's called offsides, and then it's not actually offsides, boy, that's almost like asinine. You can't make that call. You have the ability to review. You shouldn't just say offside. You can't miss it that way. With the ability to review now, you can't call something offside that isn't. You let the play go on if you think it's even close, and then you review it later if you have to. That's my opinion. But Dean said that post game. I haven't had a chance to get a good look at it, but man, that changes everything. In this situation where the Wild couldn't grab momentum back, couldn't get ahead of this game, that was a chance where they had and they missed it.
That's brutal. Let's talk about Ottinger on breakaways. So, am I crazy, or if you can get space with him, you have a lot more likelihood of scoring, whether it's a breakaway, even Hartman's goal, right, where he had a little bit of room. Is this a guy that's historically good in shootouts? Or is this a thing? If you can get a breakaway, you can score on. This is a superstar goalie, but it seems like if you get a breakaway, odds are it's going in the net.
Yeah, so I think a couple of things. Live hockey is much different than a shootout. Goaltenders are trying to read everything, and at one point he had Boldy kind of one-on-one. Boldy had somebody on his shoulder. He read that one well. He's able to make a save. But if somebody's free and clear, it's harder for the goaltender to read live hockey. He doesn't know what's going on, situation, rebound control, second chance opportunities. Like there's a lot more that they're thinking about. So I think the success rate on a live breakaway is going to be better than a shootout, believe it or not. But I think Ottinger he was good in game one, but he actually doesn't look like the Ottinger of advertised. You know, he made some big stops, but last game too, like he was gettable, and he had some fumbles with the pucks, and rebounds were there. A couple pucks hit him and end up right in the slot. But all the wild goals have come from right inside the paint, and I think it's all six right around there, whether it's breakaways or rebounds, different things. Dallas, the first game, only got scoring chances from distance. The Wild did a great job not letting them around the net. You think of playoff hockey where goals are scored, it's around the net. Ottinger has struggled around the net. So if you can somehow get around the net and then get the puck up in the air, those are the ones that are going in. Now, whether that's a breakaway, whether it's a rebound, second chance, that's where they're having success right now. And a quick little shimmy, little move. I don't know if he's not moving laterally, but he hasn't shut the door down. He doesn't look like an unbeatable goaltender. So, and I think DeBoer is trying to massage that to get him back to form where he was Game 7 against Calgary in last year's playoffs, where he was a brick wall. He hasn't been that. And again, I think if you're the Wild, you go back, there are going to be adjustments made, and it's going to say, okay, we've got to get back to winning net front, finding space there, jumping on loose pucks, getting it upstairs because we can score.
Yeah, let's talk about some good stuff. How about the new guys? This deadline, Destiny's Child, these three guys, right? We had Nyquist has been great. We got the goal from Sonny Johansson. Those three guys are so new to the Wild, and man, they've been a critical part of the playoffs so far, haven't they?
Well, you know what I think is it's important. When I play fantasy football, one of the last things I look at before the draft is contract year. And those guys are going to give you everything they have because it's extra meaningful to them. And I like that the Wild went out and got some guys that have something to prove in that regard. So it's a contract year. They're playing for something. And the writing may be on the wall for the Wild that there isn't a ton of money to go around in the future. But at the same time, these guys realize that this is a tryout. I have an NHL tryout for every team in the league right now, and they're playing their butts off. And they're veteran guys that have been in the spot before. And I think it was wise for the Wild to pick up some of these guys, and they performed for me. You think about it, JoJo, he's been terrific. Johansson, Nyquist, all of a sudden looks like a different player. I mean, I knew he was a good player, but boy, he's calm with the puck and he makes plays. He's not just dumping it in. And if they can get their guys back and their line set where you have Nyquist on your third line able to make plays, and if he can generate a point per game in the playoffs from your third line, not on the power play, 5-on-5, oh my gosh, watch out. And I mean, that changes your club entirely for sure. So, and then Sundqvist, yeah, he's a big body. I think you know what you're getting with that dude. He jumps into the lineup and scores a very Sundqvist kind of goal, going to the net, puck off the skate, and but the guys, playoff hockey, everybody talks about depth. You're going to need it. I think it's a little unfortunate for the Wild that they've needed so much depth so soon. They've had it. I think it helped win game 1, game 2. The guys played well. It just wasn't enough.
Yeah, I liked when Sonny scored. I got a text that just said 70 and Sonny. And with what we've been going through in Minnesota, that felt pretty good. There was a moment, man, when we scored those 2 goals. Because I do think this team, they don't go away. There's a belief what happened in St. Louis last year is added to what's happening this year. The fan base is a lot more manic than the players themselves. So I'm interested to see, how do you think last change will factor in? How do we feel about 97 too? Is he banged up? So I as you know, I majored in Kirill and minored in Kaprizov. So when I'm watching him isocam the entire game, he's not carrying the puck up on the power play, which is normally something he does. He seems, I would say he's injured, and I don't actually know if it's the stuff from Suter or if it's his legs or something, but he doesn't quite look right to me.
I don't know if he's injured. I'll be honest, Dean Evanson's pretty open with us throughout the regular season, and then all of a sudden it's changed quite a bit, and I think that that's the right move. So they're keeping everything within the room, and whether he's injured, he's banged up, and no idea. And but I think the if we're looking at the power play, I honestly I don't think that that has anything to do with Kaprizov's health. I think you can argue certain points to that on, if we're struggling with entries, maybe we should have the puck on the stick of our best player, the guy with the best hands. But I think they like JoJo lugging the mail up the ice, and he likes that real deep drop pass where he gets back there and he gets a full head of steam, and he's pretty good at those zone entries. But the thing is that it leaves you with where's Kirill, and Kirill kind of got handcuffed. So and he did. He turned the puck over for the Hintz goal, so that put the Wild down 1-0. That was Kaprizov's turnover, and he was put in a tough spot on that entry, and I don't think that was JoJo, but he was way deep. There's a lot that went on with that one, but the fact that he's not carrying the puck into the zone on the power play, I do not think is because he's injured whatsoever. Just think that that's a system or a thing that the Wild and the PP staff wants to have, and they'd like JoJo carrying it for sure. But they might have to change some stuff, and Avison has been willing this year to do things entirely different than last year, and we'll see now if he sticks with the status quo and says, all right, you guys, you just have to execute, or if he's willing to switch it up and say, that's not working, let's do something different. And I think he is a little bit more ready to change those things up. And we'll see if Klingberg draws in now, because the power play, they okay, not great. You can't be giving up shorthanded goals. But and then back to Kaprizov 5-on-5. Yeah, it's weird. The Wild are going to need him to be better and to do more if they're going to win the series, and that's just that. He was terrific the first period in game one. He took the cross checks from Suter, and then he's changed. He had 2 shot attempts, I think, from the third period through both overtimes. Shot attempts, and he didn't pass the eye test either. And you get into game one, I thought he looked pretty good the start of that game too. And again, as it went on, it was more and more of him doing different things than what we're accustomed to seeing him doing. I actually at one point sent out an email to NHL Stats because Kaprizov finished the night with, let me look here,
hits, 2
5
shots,
hits,
and 2
5
shots.
hits, 2 shots.
Crazy.
And I said, NHL, how many games has Kaprizov had more hits than shots? And they sent me a list. I could pull it up, but it's on my phone, which I'm actually on for the podcast. But it was about a dozen total times in his career, and maybe 3 times this year. And when that's the case, it's when he had like 2 hits and just 1 shot on goal for whatever that, like the Winnipeg game maybe, where he got hurt and he left. He had 2 hits, 1 shot, something like that. So it's rare. But I think if you just look at that stat in that category, it starts to paint the picture on what's going on there. Is he's getting a bunch of attention from Dallas. His response is through physicality. He's trying to push people off. He's trying to get space. He doesn't want to, turn into a whiner or one of these other guys. But he hasn't found the right answer yet.
And I probably overplayed the power play entry, but I think what I was trying to say is I think Kirill is happiest when he's got the puck on his stick and he's skating around a little bit. And for whatever reason, he hasn't been able to do that in Dallas. You haven't seen him moving through the zone, carrying the mail, in the O zone, spinning around a little bit. And so
right.
we've seen this for 2 years, Karts, when Kirill looks like he's laboring, when he looks like he's working or trying to do a whole bunch of plumbing things when he's not a plumber, it's not a good recipe for the Wild. We need him 10-2, show us a mohawk, go do Kirill things. And hopefully at home we can create the space for him to do that. Last change, getting some situations for him where we can turn him back into a game breaker.
Speaking of breaker, let's throw to another break and get our final segment from our sponsors.
The Wild on 7th pod is sponsored by Gem Sleep. Even Ryan Carter's mother is solving her sleep apnea. We got these late starts for the playoff games. We can't have Dana Carter walking around like a walking zombie, low energy, hurting her relationships, bad for her health. No, she took the initiative. Gem Sleep took care of her, almost like an Uber for sleep apnea. Gem Sleep is where sleep apnea goes to get put to bed. And be like Ryan Carter's mother and reach out to mygemsleep.com/wild. Don't be a walking zombie. Take care of yourself this playoff season, just like Mrs. Carter.
All right, everybody. Well, I think with the 80-degree days that just rolled through, we can officially say spring is here, which means it's roofing season. And if you're like me, lived in one of the areas that had the storms roll through with plenty of damage, it can take 18, 24 months for some of that damage to rear its ugly head. Good thing for you, our friends at Wild Construction have a great tool on their website. They've got a 3-year hail history map. They've got inspection write-ups and other things that you can check out. Super easy to use. Just go to their website, input your address, and it'll give you info on good, better, best price options for your roof and the damage that you might have. These guys want to help you out. They're a Minnesota-based company, good quality guys. And, hey, man, Wild Construction, they make it happen. Check them out, wildconstructionmn.com.
Well, the Wild are in the second season, the best one. And you know what? It's also slaw season. Do not sleep on the slaw. Get yourself some Jimmy's coleslaw. They have original, pineapple, and fat-free. So you got that paper plate rocking out by the grill. You got that warm burger, a little bit of crunch, and then you add some cool coleslaw texture. It's the best of all worlds happening at your BBQ. Check it out. They're a Minnesota company down from Stewartville, Minnesota, family-owned. Check out Jimmy's salad dressings and dips. Don't sleep on the slaw. Don't you be messing with my dressing.
So, Ken, you're coming out of that. Yeah, I think you're right, the game breaker. And I'm going to talk about Kaprizov for another minute here because I'm going to go back on his playoff experiences. And he's had 2 series. He had the Vegas series, the St. Louis series. Now this his third. And what I think he learned in the Vegas series was that he got caught having to win board battles and on the perimeter and battling because he can do all of those things. And then if you're going to score goals, though, just look at the Wild goals in the Dallas series. Where are they scored? Net front. So if you have to vacate the scoring areas to get to the possession areas, you can't be 2 places at once. In that Vegas series, I thought Kaprizov learned that. Like, I can win all these board battles, but then I cannot be at the same time out in the scoring area and pass it to myself. So you go to the St. Louis series, and I thought he applied some of that to where it was he let the game come to him a little bit more, trust the line mates, win the pucks, like we'll adjust this way. And he was able to get the puck in scoring areas. And because of that, I think he had like 6 goals, 7 goals in that series against St. Louis last year. He was almost unstoppable. But this year now, it seems to be similar again to that Vegas series where he can't get to the scoring areas with it. And he's having to go leave the scoring areas, get to the possession areas, win the battles. He picks up those pucks. And then as soon as he moves it, the play dies or whatever that might be. And again, some of that might be good defensive coverage from Dallas or, line not feeling good. Could be that they're lacking confidence or something. I mean, we haven't seen those momentum changing shifts where Kaprizov and Zuccarello are going tic-tac-toe back and forth. They're having fun out on the ice. And I think that he needs to find that somehow, like get the puck in the scoring areas, and we need to see him smile. Like when he's playing good, he's having fun. We saw Kirill Crazy Hair come out yesterday, and we were waiting like, okay, the crazy hair comes out. Turtle, our little hero in a half shell. We saw the pad come out. Like, when's it coming? When's it coming? And it didn't. So I think that they're going to have to find a way to have fun, start playing hockey again, understand that the stage is a little bit bigger, but enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think of the people that, go on the road, just get one, you're fine? I think that's what I was hearing a little bit with the fan base last night was you get greedy, like you said. So once you have the one, you think you're going to get them all. And when you don't, you almost feel like they gave it away when they didn't, right? Their job was to go to Dallas, get one game, and they've done that. They're coming home Friday night, late start. But do you read much into that? The idea that, well, we just need one on the road?
Yeah, for sure. I totally do. The thing with the playoffs is, I think people say it during the regular season, whatever happened the last game, it truly does not matter. Like you have to just completely let it go. And it's not over until you lose 4 games. So it's not a big deal. At times, I think it's almost good to anticipate we are losing minimum 3 games of this series. However, we lose them, don't know. Doesn't matter. We're going to play our best, but we have to win 4 games. And I think that that's the mentality that the Wild are trying to take here. Everybody knows this feels like it's going 7, 6, and we're going to lose some games. How we lose them doesn't matter. Don't read between the lines. It's okay to hit the reset button, but we're 1-1 right now. We've got our 1 win. We need 3 more. We've lost 1 game, can only lose 2 more, and that's the way it is. It's the pressure's not there as much as the fans make it seem like it is, and players are professional. And I remember talking to like my folks when I'm playing, and they can't watch games in the playoffs because they're so nervous, and they're like, how do you handle this? And it's like, it's really not that nerve-wracking. Like, it's not that bad when you're playing. You understand, how hard it is to win a game and how easy it is to lose a game. And that can be, that coin can flip either way. Dallas had a great game. They can come out overconfident in game 3 and just get steamrolled by the Wild on their home ice. And the challenge is to just keep your eye on the prize and know that it's likely going 7, never too high, never too low.
I love that pep talk. So, related, one of the texts that came through the group text last night was a guy said, I hope game 2 doesn't haunt us for the rest of the series. Or I think he said, I hope the decisions we've made in game 2 don't haunt us for the rest of the series. And hey, credit to the podcast. Other people jumped in and were like, hey, that's the most Minnesota thing ever texted. We're breaking the mold here. Dude, what are you doing? And so I got a metaphor back for you because I didn't play. We're playing pull tabs, okay? We're down in Dallas, game 1. We pull a 218, game 1, late, double overtime, 92 minutes, $218 winner. What do? We're putting at least 100 back in our pocket. We're tipping the lady selling the pull tabs. We're already good. We're good. We did our job. We won game 1. And you know what? We rolled back 80, after tipping, and we didn't win on that 80 in game 2, but we still got out of there with a 218. We're in the W column. We got 1 W. We need 3 more. That's the simple version, I think, of what you did with your parents. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense.
It's
Totally makes sense.
playbacks. That was playbacks last night.
Yeah, yeah. You went back in the box. You didn't hit, but at the same time, you got your initial investment back. You're not out. You're not down. You haven't lost anything.
No damage.
You're in a good spot. Yeah, you had fun along the way. Now you've got the opportunity, some cash in your pocket to jump back in that box next time you sit down to have a beer. I mean, is that what you're saying?
That's exactly right. I think if you think of it that way, if you think of winning how you would normally think of winning, if you were playing the game, I think that's why that metaphor works for me, because I'm the one playing. And I know I'm fine with all this because I already hit the 218. We're good. We can continue on. But when you're a fan, man, you're on the roller coaster. You are just, I didn't wear the same clothing last night. And I thought, I probably should have worn the same stuff. I should have had my son drive down from St. John's College and watch game 2 with me because we won game 1 together. I mean, these are real things I'm thinking about. Like, I only have a beer when they score. I have to earn the beer. It's not given. I mean, it is so horrible. Like, psychiatrists should be activated all across the state of the hockey right now. So let's trust these guys. They have to be more stable than we are.
Oh yeah, there's no question they are. There's no question they are. And it'll be curious. What will be interesting now going into 3 is I think that the staff will make some adjustments in terms of systems to combat the pace from Dallas and do these things. The penalty kill has to 100% be better. The penalty kill just cannot be that porous. And I think they're trying to do some different things. There's some switches up top. Communication's not there. New personnel. Um, However, they're going to solve that problem. They have to find a way, and whether it's simplify, keep the puck on half the ice, let I don't know, like don't let Robertson touch it, whatever it might be. They're going to have to find a way to be better on the penalty kill. They were aggressive early on and throughout the season. That's why they had success. It looks like they're sitting back. They're trying to be aggressive, and it's just not working. And so they're going to have to clean that one up if they're gonna get a little bit better. But what do you think that they're going to have to do in terms of improvements, adjustments? I think that they're getting guys in. So what I'll ask is, what do you think will happen if all of a sudden the Wild don't say give any lineup stuff and they've got the towels on the chairs at Xcel Energy Center and they hit the ice for the first time and it's Hartman, Eriksson, Ek, and the boys are back together, St. Paul, ready to go. Like all of a sudden, doesn't it feel like a much different series already?
It really does, and I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, they're waiting for those guys to get healthy. Last night was it was a tough lineup. Um, Fleury was in a spot where there were moments he was hung out to dry, and I think coming
Mm-hmm.
home, shoring things up. I've always said when we play our best this year, it was like we're the Western Conference Carolina Hurricanes. It's structured, it's tight, it's good goaltending, puck possession. It didn't look like last night. Last night was that 1970s hockey I was predicting at the start of the season, but it didn't look like the Wild when they're playing their best.
No, it didn't at all. There'll be I, there'll be a response. I think it'll be a good response. They'll get some help, I think, in terms of bodies, and I don't know, that's speculation, but it seems like there's been a buildup, and that's what it's looking like. So um, should be a good game three. Interesting. The adjustments we'll keep a close eye on, but nonetheless, you gotta ride it. You gotta stay on that train. We're here.
Till it's here.